All right, so Michael.
Yes.
Well, here's a proper welcome to the show. Now we have you on camera. Um, all right. Let me ask you this in the context of that last conversation as we go into some other topics. One of the things that I miss about doing radio, I mean, obviously this is live. We get phone calls from folks on YouTube and listening to the stream, but and to a certain extent, you don't have the same dynamic that you have in AM radio on Sirius, but there's some of that where somebody's just gonna spin the dial on Sirius and like, oh, listen to this guy talking, and like, what? I'm curious, what do you hear from? Because when I get a call from like a conservative now, they're basically just trying to explain to me how race theory or IQ theory justifies like racism, or it's somebody who wants to defend Jordan Peterson or something that are like sort of, that to me feel like maybe they're marginal and a little bit more YouTube-ish in terms of what are there mainstream conservatives anymore? Do they call in and say like, do they ever, is all they talking about is PC is a problem, or do they ever talk about we need to have blank policy? Like, have you ever heard, like, you ever get any conservative callers who have like a problem with like an issue, like a policy issue?
It's changed since the beginning of Trump's presidency. I mean, there was a more kind of diverse, for lack of a better word, range of Trump supporters who would call. And I think a lot of people got, at least if they didn't get off the train, they weren't going to call a radio show and say they were still on it.
They weren't broadcasting the fact that they were still.
But we still get some people who don't believe or don't support a lot of things that he says and does, but they think the economy's great. They think the tax bill was great. They do argue those policies, and then you of course argue with them about, but even if that were true, which it's not, what about what he said about this, or what about this racist attack or that racist attack? And it just comes down to what their priorities are. So there's still that group of people.
All right, I don't get, like, I haven't heard anybody calling. I mean, I could see, like, look, the economy is, the trajectory has been maintained.
I call it the Obama economy that he's destroying.
I mean, and we're starting to see, wage stagnation. Job numbers may get hurt by this, certainly income inequality, which Obama didn't particularly address very well, is not being addressed in this administration. But to say that he hasn't ruined the economy yet is factually true. So at least there's some tethering to that. And I suppose if I was, I was a CEO of a decent-sized corporation, I'd be pretty happy with the tax cut. So I could see that at least that's exactly in some way comforting to me, that there's at least some people out there trying to make some type of rational argument.
Well, I don't know if you saw this Hugh Hewitt column in the Washington Post the other day.
As soon as you
so
said
bizarre.
Hugh Hewitt, I would have said no, but but I'm open to hearing about it.
Well, it was this sort of mentality. It was like he was trying to do a sort of rebuttal to George Will, saying vote for Democrats this year, and his was vote for Republicans. And he was basically saying, yeah, you might not like this, and you might not like that, and you might not like this, but look at how great the economy is right now. Look at how we're building, on things that we, we're trying to do in terms of battling, forces around the world like North Korea. Look, I mean, he's trying to take everything and say, here's an argument for why you should, and that if you, and he was trying to put it in terms of stability, keep things stable this was such a complete turnaround, because if we elect Democrats, there will be chaos. Donald Trump will be impeached. There will be chaos in the country.
He's right.
But right now, it's a stability.
Right.
Now, that's a really crazy idea.
That's a tough argument. I mean, I think you could say, like, it's going to get a little bit crazier if you elect Democrats. And I think it is. I mean, I think like because we're going to start to actually see more about what's going on with the Trump administration, and we're going to see genuine obstruction, I hope. I don't know why Hugh Hewitt doesn't just say, like, you got to vote Republican because we're getting the biggest, widest swath of regressive judges that we've had in generations.
Yeah, well, I mean, he brought up the judges. He brought up Kavanaugh, all of that, so...
We're going to be able to gut all the regulatory agencies. We're going to unleash I would, you might phrase it differently than me, but the worst inclinations of business, and they're going to be able to, we're going to take us back to the 20s. It's going to be the roaring 20s again.
Yeah.
So what else? I mean, what else is capturing the imagination of your audience these days in terms of what you discussed?
Well, it's interesting what you mentioned about the conservatives who call... I do have an odd sort of regular people
Jay from
who call.
Connecticut.
And then there are the people who... No, I mean conservative.
Okay.
And then there are the people who are just, going down the dial and, come upon you, and they probably listen to Hannity and they just switch it out. And it's really like they landed on another planet. And those are the ones you realize that they're in a total bubble and, don't get... But it is interesting. We have those people. I like to engage them because I know a lot of my other listeners, that's their family, that's their cousin, that's their uncle. They want to know how to challenge them. I try to do my best to, give an example. But our larger audience, it's just... It's women, people of color, LGBT people, really energized. The Women's March was like unbelievable when we did nonstop, coverage all day because covering the marches all across the country, and people were calling all over the country, heading to a march, coming from a march, at the march. I mean, that's when we just realized how much, we had so much of the audience that was out there in the mountains, in the desert, everywhere, just, because satellite can get there. And interesting thing, when Robert De Niro did his Fuck Trump, remember that one? And everybody said, "Oh my God!" The crowd that said, "Oh my God, this is gonna hurt."
Right.
I played that and talked about it, and women calling just nonstop, black women, white women, young women, all of them saying, "Thank you, Robert De Niro. Thank you, Robert De Niro. Thank you, Robert De Niro." I mean, the energy out there. So when people say things like that are going to dampen our cause, or this is all just old thinking. I mean, people were exhilarated.
Yeah, I mean, I think the concern is on some level that it's going to like motivate the conservative base, right? Like that's the big fear. Like you're going to wake the sleeping tiger or something. But I think their aggrievement, it's just much harder to activate.
And it's going to remind them that Hollywood is evil. Like what, they've been doing that one forever.
Right. Hollyweird. But I think the idea is that, it's supposed to like motivate these people to vote, to get out and vote and push back on the Hollywood elite, and I just don't think that sense of aggrievement is going to get activated that easily.
It's not enough for them to run on. Even this immigration thing. I mean, everything we see, it hasn't worked, right? Everything we see, these attacks on immigrants, they tried it in Virginia. They've tried it in every special election. It doesn't work. You know, MS-13. Most people have no experience with a gang.
Right.
They have no idea what it is. The separating of children at the border has horrified people, and yet it's all they have. So they're going to run that and Hollywood elite, and they don't have much.
No,
and the
they
tax
don't
bill
have
isn't working.
They don't have much, but they may not need much, Michael, as you know, because when the Great Awakening happens, and Mueller comes out with a long list of indictments, including the Obamas, the Clintons, probably Mayor Bloomberg. Who else? The list is going to be long, and I'm not convinced that you will not be on it. All right, well, listen.
I'm sure you're going to be on it.
I hope so. I appreciate your coming by. I want to play that Michael Signorile. Folks, do you have a website? Like, how do people access your show if you don't have Sirius? If you have Sirius, you should go to 127.
Yeah. Or they can go to SiriusXM.com and get a trial subscription, or they can go to my website, signorile.com, SIGNORILE.com.
Screw those guys.
Huh?
Screw Sirius. Have them go to your website. You can filter them in from there. All right. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Michael.